Libya's coastguard says it fears around 100 migrants have drowned off the country's coastline. Only 14 survivors have been rescued from the overloaded boat. The vessel apparently ran into trouble just east of Tripoli, but it's not exactly clear what happened. Libya is one of the main departure points for migrants trying to reach Europe via the Mediterranean. However, the Libyan coastguard, trained by the European Union, is intercepting smuggling vessels, making a significant dent in the number of people willing to risk the journey. Well, CGTN's Yasser Hakim has more for us from Cairo. Yasser, there's little information about this tragedy. What are you able to tell us about what happened and the number of casualties?
Yes, Karen, the information is also not too much on the developments. What we know is that it's more than 100 people were on board that boat. 16 have been taken on refuge. They have survived. 3 children were found dead, and the rest are still being searched for. There's a rescue operation underway, but obviously as no news comes, as times passes, the chances of survival diminishes. So it could be a tragic incident that could see maybe 100 people who would be dead or even more, depending on the outcome. One of the survivors said there were around 225 people were on board that boat when it capsized. So we might hear about the news of the deaths or any more survivors in the next few hours.
And Yasser, do you think we're likely to see more migrants attempting to make this risky journey across the Mediterranean? And what about the European Union proposal of having North African countries host migrant processing centres?
Right. Concerning the number of refugees, actually in 2018 the number has dropped by more than 80%. If you compare to 2017, and around 95% if you compare to 2015. So the number has actually drastically been reduced in the last year or so, basically because of the inhumane situation that happens for the refugees, especially in Libya, when they fell in the trap of the traffickers and the slavery, and we've seen the uproar concerning the slavery incidents that has been uncovered in Libya in the last year. So the numbers have dropped significantly, but yet we're talking about 11,400, around that number so far in 2018. That's still a big number, and the EU is working with North African countries on trying to stop smuggling and trying to crack down on the smugglers. And concerning the points or the camps that the EU wants to open up and the centers they want to open up in North Africa, none of the North African countries have shown any willingness to agree on that so far. So there's no agreement so far from the African side that any of the countries is going to open any of these centers. There is also talk of countries in the EU that might open one of these centers. These centers are aimed at collecting the refugees and seeing who is eligible to take the asylum in Europe and who should be sent back to his own country. So at this point, there is not yet any information on whether this center will go ahead, or these centers or this idea would be a success.
Let's talk a bit more about Libya. It's a popular departure point for migrants seeking to reach Europe due to the instability in the country. What can you tell us about claims by Khalifa Haftar that his troops have completely liberated the city of Derna and now he's in control of most of eastern Libya?
Yes, Khalifa Haftar has announced that his forces have managed to clear out this Derna from militias or Islamist groups or the drug traffickers or any type of traffickers. Now, it's an important development, I might say, because Derna is a strategically located city in Libya. It's a coastline, it's on the coastline, and it's to the east, close to Benghazi Road, leading to a border with Egypt. Now, this area has been announced the first Islamic Emirate of the ISIL when they took over strongholds in Libya. It was the first one, followed by Sirte as well, and what's considered an important strategic stronghold for ISIL. And before ISIL, Al-Qaeda also took over the city during after the revolution, the uprising that led to the ouster of Muammar Gaddafi. So it's an important stronghold. Militias until recently were trying also to take over because of its position on the coast. So it's easy to have trafficking, whether to smuggle arms, drugs, militants, or refugees, so illegal refugees, obviously. So taking it over will obviously lead to a reduction in the number of illegal refugees going from Libya, because they used to take this path as one of the main points to go to Europe by sea. And also it will help in the fight against terrorism and the fight against militancy, because it was one of the points where smuggled weapons would go into the country from the coastline, and then the terrorists would spread out into the rest of the country. So it's an important development that will help in the future of the country of Libya.
Okay, Yasser Hakim, thank you for that update. That was Yasser Hakim in Cairo for us.